Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas and welcome to the 10th video in a series of game development tutorials on how to make your own visual novel style game in Unity. In this tutorial we'll be covering adding in a next button so we can control when we continue through our text. Remember to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay up to date with every tutorial I upload. Feel free to leave a comment and drop a like. We also have a Patreon page where you can help be a part of this channel. You can also find all the scripts and the assets to this series there too, along with plenty of other things. You can also now join as a free member. And now, on with the tutorial. So, the idea of what we want to do is we want to add in a button that says next. And that button appears when our script has been read through. So, when Kasumi says the first thing, the next button appears so we can click it, and then the next piece is said. So that's where we need to get to in this tutorial. So first things first, let's create a button. Let's go to our canvas and let's hide the fade in screen. So we'll turn this back on a little later on, but what I want to do is I want to make sure I get the button in the correct place. So game object, UI, and if we go down here, you can see button. Let's select it and we'll just call this next button. What we want to do next is click the arrow there, and where we've got the text, let's change this to say next, and we'll add 2 arrows just to give it a bit of indication of what is going on here. I am going to change this a little bit, so I'm going to go to the next button itself, and let's change some of these colors. So normal color, I want to have as maybe like a green kind of color, a nice light green. When it's highlighted, I want to have a nice dark green, maybe like that. Maybe not too dark. And the pressed color will have as maybe like a grey, slight grey greenish color. You'll see what all of these colors mean in the big scheme of things a little later on. So let's make sure we have our rect tool selected, and let's increase the size of our next button, maybe to about that size. And let's change the text itself. I could do with it being a little bit bigger, so let's have it as maybe 48. Let's have it bold as well. And let's have it somewhere down here. So make sure we have next button selected and move it to here. What I am going to do is the text box object that we have right here. I'm going to turn that on so we can see whereabouts this next button is going to appear. And I think maybe about there seems about right. So let's make sure we set the anchoring for this next button correctly. So we need to make sure it is bottom right. There we go. And we also now need to turn off the text box and turn off the next button. Like I said, it's something that we're going to control within the script itself. So firstly, let's get the script to a point where the next button will appear. After we've done that, we'll code the script for the next button. So let's go into scene 01, event. And like I said, it can still all be contained within this script because what we'll do is we will create something within this script which will allow us to press that button. We don't need to create a whole new script. Because that next button is going to reference things within this script, it's in our best interest to create that next button within this script in the correct method. So let's go to our variables and let's get rid of some of the excess spaces here because we don't really need to have too many spaces. Next, what we'll do is we will serialize field. And we will have it as a game object. And we'll just call it next button, semicolon. Now we're going to get a little bit ahead of ourselves now. We're going to create another variable, and that variable is going to control at what point the next button will do whatever it needs to do. So serialize field, and we'll have this as a integer, so int, and we'll have it as event pos, short for position. In fact, by default, we'll make this equal to 0, semicolon. So next thing we need to do is, if we scroll down, this bit right here, if you remember, we wait for all this text to do what it needs to do. The girl sighs, and then the girl will gasp here. But what we need to do is right here, after we've waited for all of this, and then we've got wait for seconds, 0.5f, we say next button dot set active, and in brackets, true, semicolon. Now, these lines of code here, what we're going to do is for now, I'm going to put a double forward slash that is. And what that will do is it will treat it like an annotation. It won't read the line of code. So I'm going to save it. So what's going to happen now is we will play, but these 4 lines of code will not happen. We will get to the point where we've run through our text and the next button will appear. So that is literally the point where we wait until the next button is clicked. So let's make sure all this falls into place as intended. Give Unity a second just to have a good think about what we've written there. The 3 or 4 extra lines of code. You may get this there saying you define that, but it's never used. That's fine. We will use it. It's not important at the moment. So if we press play and head into the game, I know the fade in doesn't work because we haven't got it active, but there we go. Oh, of course. You know, I always do this. I always forget to assign the variable. So drag and drop next button over there. You'll be surprised the amount of times that I do that where I've created something and I've just completely forgotten to define the variable by dragging and dropping. I do it all the time. I always get ahead of myself. So let's see this work. There we go. So next, and that would be when we do our next thing. So you can see there that if we hover over it, the next button changes color. If we click it, it changes color again. So what we need to do now is we need to advance our script a little bit further to say, when we've pressed this, well, what exactly do we do next? So this event starter is the first section, the first piece of event. And what we can do is each bit of text that gets spoken or each event that happens, we can have it as separate events rather than have one massive event. So if something goes wrong, we know which event has gone wrong. So what we'll do is if we go down past our event starter, we'll say public void next button, open close bracket, open curly bracket. Now, do you remember when we set that variable up here as event pause? Well, this is where it comes in handy because this next button is going to make us go to our next piece of code. But then if we press it again, it'll just repeat the same thing. So we need to make sure that this next button knows which event to go for. So what we could do is if we go to this event starter, what we'll do is we'll type double slash and we'll put event 0. So that 0 references the event position. So when we've got to the end of this event, what we'll do is say event pause is equal to 1. That means that whenever we click the next button, it's going to look for event position 1. So we'll say if, and in brackets, event pause equals 1. And remember, we don't need to have if event pause equals 0 because by default, 0 is the automatic event that happens as soon as the game starts. So we open curly bracket. Now, if the event position is 1, we need to do our next bit. And what we'll do is we will take these 4 lines of code, cut them out, paste them here, and get rid of the annotations because we don't need them anymore. So theoretically, what will happen, actually, no, I've just thought, yes, I know we want to do this, but we need to create the actual event, don't we? So before we go any further, let's go from event starter and let's go down to here and we'll go I enumerator. And in here, we'll say event 1. You could use number 1 if you want to. I just want to use text here. And then we'll take those 4 lines of code and put them inside that coroutine. So what will happen now is when we press 1, hopefully this bit will run. But we'll need to turn off the next button, so as we can't go like skipping through just yet. We will do it, but not just yet. So we need to say next button dot set active false semicolon, which means that in this public void next button, if event pos equals 1, we now need to say start coroutine event 1 open close bracket semicolon, and save. Now, what should happen is if we go back to Unity once it's compiled, we should be able to click that next button and it should carry on with the next piece of the event. So let's press play and let's see what happens. Hopefully everything should go as intended, and then we can advance the script even further. So far so good. She was supposed to be here. Well, she's not, so let's click next. I've done it again, haven't I? Do you see what I mean about me always trying to get ahead of myself? I just want to get to that end result real quick, and here we are. This is where I've gone wrong. We didn't even set the button up. You didn't set the button up, Jimmy. So go on to next button now. And here at the bottom, you can see list is empty. And press the plus, and then drag and drop scene control onto there, and then click on no function. Then go to scene 1 events, and you can see the list of everything in there, and we need to click on next button. And what we've done there is we've made sure that the next button does indeed function from what we've defined it as in that method. You think my mistakes were almost as if I was trying to gather even more watch time. I mean, I don't really need to do that, do I? These tutorials go on for hours. So let's also set our fade in back on and press play. And let's hopefully watch this in all its glory and hopefully watch it work properly, because we've defined our actual script. Okay, so far so good. Yep, excellent. Wonder where Haruka's got to. She's supposed to be here. Yep. Okay, so yeah, as far as we can tell, that all works. So what we can do now is if we go back to our script, and we need to kind of establish what we're going to say next. So realistically, you could rearrange what's going on here. So let's have Haruka come in straight away as soon as we've pressed the next button. So we can take that, put that there, and we will start some of the text. So let's see. Let's take this here, and let's go all the way down. So we copy these bunch of lines of code. So about 8 lines, isn't it? So let's copy that, and let's go down a couple of lines and place that here. So let's now change the text to speak to say, what can we make it say? Let's say I was hiding over in the corner. I don't know. Let's get rid of girl Psy, like that. And let's get rid of the wait for 2 seconds there. And I'm going to place that just there. In fact, no, do you know what? I don't even think we need that. Because what we're going to do is say next button is true after that. Now, I'm not quite sure how this is going to pan out, because at the moment, when I think about it, we've got our text box here, we've got our character name. So we need to change our character name to Haruka. And I cannot remember if we defined that in the script, so let's quickly check. So on here, we've got fade in, Kasumi angry, text speak. Okay, so we do need to change the character name. So let's define that as a game object. So next thing, let's go to the variables, serialize field, game object. I will just put char name, semicolon. And what we'll do is in event, so we've got event 0. Let's put the marker here to say event 1. And what we'll do here is we'll say char name dot get component tmp text, dot text equals Haruka, semicolon. And let's see how this pans out now. So let's save that script. Let's head back into Unity. Once it's had a quick think about those extra lines of code. And if you are worried about this script, I will put this script in the pinned comment and you can go and download it if you want to, so you don't have any problems with it. You can literally copy the script I've written here. Let's put our character name over here. And let's see how this now pans out. I'm not quite sure how this is going to go. It should work. But this is the joy of coding when it comes to video games. I love sitting here and trying to debug what's gone wrong, and I could spend hours doing it. Yep, all good. So next, I was hiding over in the corner, and she gasps, and there we go, there's our next button. Now obviously, we've not done anything else, so do you see what I mean earlier about having the position? It's just going to repeat. See what I mean? So obviously, the next piece would be event 2. So that means at the end of event 1, we would set the event pause equals 2, semicolon, and save. Now, I'm going to play this, but we will get an error because there is no position 2. It's something that we've got to code in. So let's press play. And let's see what will happen. So yeah, all good so far. We know all this works. It's supposed to be here. Next, I was hiding over in the corner. Gasp. Now if we press this, nothing works because it's trying to find event number 2. And obviously we don't have event 2. So that's what we're going to do in the next tutorial. We're going to create the second event. And we are going to do a fade out screen, and we're also going to start looking at new scenes, because what I want to happen is I want our characters to have a little conversation, say they're going to look for somebody, and then it fades out from this scene and fades into a new scene in a park or a street or something with the next character. So remember to subscribe and click on the notification bell to stay up to date with every tutorial in this series, and I'll see you next time.